Why is it that so many people never see much life beyond their 80s, while others stay strong well into their 90s, or even hit 100? Is it just luck, or something you can actually control? Think about it. You might know an 85-year-old who still walks to the market, tends their garden, laughs with friends. And then there's someone else, maybe just 82, struggling to get out of a chair, feeling weaker with every passing month. The difference between those two lives isn't always obvious, but it's real. And it can mean years, even decades, of living well or watching your health fade away. Today, we're going to uncover 6 crucial reasons why most lives shorten after 80, and how small, simple changes can tip the odds in your favor. The last one? Almost nobody talks about it, but it could be the reason you add more good years to your life. I know, this is a sensitive topic. No one likes to think about the clock ticking down, especially when it's about our own lives or the people we love. But avoiding it doesn't make it go away. Talking about it, honestly, openly, is the first step to doing something about it. What I'm going to share with you isn't guesswork. These aren't old wives' tales or scare tactics. This is based on what's been seen time and again in real lives, backed by decades of research on how we age, how our bodies change, and what makes some people outlive the rest. And here's the thing, these 6 reasons don't just explain why life after 80 can be shorter for so many. They also hold the keys to living longer, stronger, and with more joy. Small, practical shifts you can start today, no matter your age, that could make all the difference in the years ahead. I'll tell you now, reason number 6 is one that almost no one talks about. But once you hear it, you might start looking at the rest of your life in a whole new way. If you care about staying strong, healthy, and connected as you age, or if you want to help someone you love do the same, you're in the right place. This is what we do here on Senior Strong Living. Share the kind of knowledge, stories, and guidance that can truly change the way you live your later years. So, take a moment right now, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the bell. That way, you'll never miss a tip, a reminder, or a piece of advice that could add more good years to your life, and more life to your years. What happens when the legs that carried you for 80 years suddenly can't keep up? It's not something you notice all at once. It starts quietly. Maybe the stairs feel steeper than they used to. Maybe that walk to the corner store takes a little more out of you than it did last year. And before you know it, the strength you've always relied on just isn't there anymore. This is something doctors call sarcopenia, a fancy word for the gradual loss of muscle as we age. And while it's natural for everyone, after 80, it can accelerate if we don't fight back. It's not just about having less muscle, it's about what that loss does to the rest of your life. Weak muscles mean weaker balance, which means a greater risk of falling. And for someone in their 80s, one bad fall can change everything. Hospital stays, reduced independence, even the confidence to keep moving at all. When mobility starts to go, so does freedom. The less you move, the harder everyday things become. Getting out of a chair, carrying groceries, even just bending down to tie your shoes. And here's the tough part. Once those tasks feel overwhelming, people start avoiding them. That means even less movement, which leads to even more weakness. It's a cycle that, if left unchecked, can take years off your life, not just in numbers, but in the quality of your days. I think of a man I knew, Harold. He was 84, the kind of person who loved being in his garden every morning, planting, trimming, tending to his flowers. But one particularly cold winter, he decided to cut back on his daily walks. He told himself it was just until the weather warmed up. A couple of months later, when spring came, he bent down to plant some flowers, and felt winded almost immediately. His legs shook, his back ached. He was shocked at how quickly his strength had faded. It took him months of steady effort just to get back some of what he'd lost. The good news is, you don't need to run marathons to fight muscle loss. Gentle, consistent movement can work wonders. Walking around your home or garden, light resistance exercises, even simple chair workouts can keep your muscles engaged and your balance steady. The key is not to stop moving, because once you do, getting started again becomes so much harder. So let me ask you, do you believe muscle decline after 80 is inevitable? Or do you think it can be reversed, at least in part, with the right effort? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Could eating less, without even realizing it, be quietly taking years off your life? For many people after 80, the answer is yes. Appetite can shrink with age. Maybe you're not as active, so you don't feel as hungry. Maybe food just doesn't taste the way it used to. Or maybe it's the side effects of medication, or even dental problems, making chewing more difficult. But here's the danger. Less appetite often means less nutrition, and that can slowly drain your strength from the inside out. When the body doesn't get enough calories, or the right nutrients, it starts to lose muscle faster. The immune system weakens, recovery from illness slows down, and bones become more fragile. Even something as small as not getting enough protein can speed up frailty. Over time, this makes you more vulnerable to falls, infections, and a general decline in energy that can make every day feel like a struggle. And it's not always about eating too little. Sometimes it's about eating the wrong things. Processed foods, soft snacks, and quick fixes might be easier to prepare or chew, but they often lack the vitamins, minerals, and healthy fats your body still needs, maybe more than ever. And when cooking for one feels like a chore, it's easy to settle for a cup of coffee in the morning, or a small biscuit in the afternoon, instead of a balanced meal. I remember a woman named Margaret, 82 years old, who had started losing weight without even trying. She told me she just wasn't hungry, and sometimes she'd skip dinner altogether. When her doctor ran some tests, it turned out she was low in several key nutrients, things that directly affect bone strength, energy, and mental clarity. With the help of a dietitian, she made small changes. Easy soups she could reheat, smoothies packed with fruit and protein, pre-cut vegetables ready to eat. Within weeks, she noticed a difference. More energy, better mood, even a steadier walk. Good nutrition at 80 isn't about eating big portions, it's about eating smart. Colorful vegetables for vitamins, lean proteins for muscle, whole grains for steady energy, and healthy fats for your heart and brain. Even something as simple as keeping a bowl of fresh fruit on the counter or having yogurt and nuts on hand can make a real difference. So I'll put this question to you. Do you think appetite loss is just a natural part of aging, or is it a warning sign we shouldn't ignore? Share your thoughts. I'm curious what you've seen in your own life. What if the biggest danger after 80 isn't the illness you have, but the one you think you've got under control? By the time most people reach their 80s, it's common to live with at least one chronic condition. Maybe high blood pressure, diabetes, arthritis, or heart disease. These don't have to end your independence, but only if you stay on top of them. The problem is, too often they're left to drift, unmanaged, until they quietly take a bigger toll than anyone expected. Part of the challenge is that symptoms can be sneaky. Fatigue, shortness of breath, swelling, these can be brushed off as just old age. Sometimes we downplay them because we don't want to worry our loved ones. Other times, it's simply because going to the doctor feels like too much trouble. But here's the hard truth. Chronic conditions don't just pause because we ignore them. High blood sugar can silently damage your nerves, kidneys, and eyes. High blood pressure can quietly strain your heart and arteries for years before it shows itself in a crisis. I knew a man named Walter, 85, sharp as a tack, proud of how he never needed to fuss over his health. He had both diabetes and congestive heart failure, but when he felt fine, he sometimes skipped his medications for a day or two. "I'll get back on track tomorrow," he'd say. But over time, those skipped days added up. One morning, he woke up struggling to breathe, and within hours he was in the hospital. Thankfully, the doctors stabilized him, but the scare left him shaken. He told me later, "I didn't realize how quickly it could all catch up to me." Managing a chronic condition isn't about living in fear, it's about protecting your future. That means regular checkups, taking medication exactly as prescribed, and being honest with your healthcare team about how you're feeling. It means not putting off those routine blood tests or blood pressure checks, even when you'd rather stay home. And if transportation is an issue, looking into local services or asking friends and family for help can make all the difference. So here's something to think about. Do you believe most people skip their medical routines because they truly feel fine, or because deep down, they're afraid of what they might find out? I'd love to hear your take on that in the comments. Can loneliness be as dangerous as a serious illness? More and more research says yes. After 80, the circle of friends and family often grows smaller. People move away, loved ones pass on, and the opportunities to meet new faces shrink. Those little daily interactions we once took for granted, A quick chat at the store, a neighbor waving as you walk by, can quietly disappear. At first, a little more time alone might not seem so bad. But too much solitude starts to take a toll. Loneliness doesn't just live in the heart, it seeps into the body. It can raise blood pressure, weaken the immune system, and even increase inflammation, which is linked to diseases like heart disease and dementia. Emotionally, it can lead to depression, and when that happens, the motivation to cook, exercise, or keep up with medical care can slip away. That's how isolation can slowly chip away at both the length and the quality of life. I think of Ellen, 87, who lost her husband and lived alone in a quiet neighborhood. Her children called once or twice a week, but visits were rare. She still had her hobbies, at least for a while. Then she started sleeping later, skipping meals, and spending long hours just sitting by the window. A neighbor eventually invited her to join a local book club. She hesitated. "I'm too old to start something new," she said. But she went. Within weeks, her appetite returned, her smile came back, and she seemed lighter somehow, as if the loneliness had been lifting without her even realizing it. Staying connected after 80 takes effort, more effort than when we were younger. But the payoff is huge. It could be joining a community group, volunteering, attending a weekly gathering at your place of worship, or scheduling regular visits with friends and family. Even video calls can help, especially when travel is difficult, though they'll never fully replace the warmth of being face-to-face. So I'll ask you this. Do you think technology has made it easier to stay connected? Or has it actually made real, in-person connection harder? Share what you think. Your answer might make someone else see their own situation differently. Why does a simple cold feel so much harder to shake after 80? The answer lies in how the immune system changes with age. Over time, the body becomes less efficient at producing the immune cells needed to fight off illness. That means infections that once cleared up in a few days can now linger for weeks, and sometimes turn into something much more serious. This is why common illnesses like the seasonal flu, pneumonia, or even a mild urinary tract infection can hit so much harder later in life. A small cough can become a lung infection. A tiny cut can become an entry point for bacteria. And because healing is slower, these infections have more time to take hold and cause complications. On top of that, chronic conditions, like diabetes or heart disease, can weaken the immune system even further, making it harder for your body to mount a strong defense. I remember speaking with Frank, 81, who thought he just had a lingering winter cough. He figured it would pass, so he didn't call his doctor. Within days, he was struggling to breathe. It turned out to be pneumonia, and he ended up in the hospital for over a week. Thankfully, he recovered, but he told me afterward that he'd never ignore early symptoms again. "I thought I was being tough," he said. "Turns out, I was just being careless." Prevention really is key here. Staying up to date on recommended vaccines, practicing regular hand washing, and paying attention to oral hygiene can go a long way. So can getting enough rest, staying hydrated, and nourishing your body with immune-supporting foods. And perhaps most importantly, seeking medical attention early, even for what might seem like a small problem. Because at this stage in life, catching something early can be the difference between a quick recovery and a long, difficult road back to health. Let me put a thought out there. Do you think most people delay seeing a doctor for small symptoms because they truly think it's nothing, or because they're hoping to avoid the hassle and cost? I'm curious to hear your view. Is the real danger after 80 your favorite chair? It might sound strange, but spending too much time sitting and too little time moving is one of the most powerful ways to shorten not just the length of your life, but the quality of it. Here's what happens. When movement becomes limited to a few steps around the house, the muscles lose strength, the bones lose density, and the heart loses stamina. Circulation slows, digestion becomes sluggish, and even your thinking can become less sharp. And it doesn't take years for these changes to set in. Sometimes just weeks of inactivity can lead to noticeable decline. It often starts subtly. Maybe there's joint pain that makes walking uncomfortable. Maybe you've had a fall or an injury, and you're afraid to push yourself. Or maybe it's just easier to settle into that familiar chair with the TV on, telling yourself you'll move a little more tomorrow. But every day you don't move, your body is quietly adjusting to doing less. I think of Leonard, 86, who'd been active all his life until a knee injury sidelined him. At first, He told himself it was temporary, just until the pain eased. But weeks turned into months, and he found himself short of breath after walking just a few steps. His family encouraged him to start moving again, and with his doctor's guidance, he began light walking and simple balance exercises. It wasn't easy, but within weeks, his energy improved and his confidence returned. The transformation was proof that even after a long stretch of inactivity, it's possible to rebuild strength, if you start. The good news is, you don't need to run laps or lift heavy weights to stay active. Gentle stretching in the morning, walking around your home, tending to a garden, or following a chair exercise routine can all keep your body engaged. The key is consistency, doing something every day to remind your muscles, bones, and heart that they're still needed. So here's the question. Some say rest is the key to longevity, others say movement is. Which side do you believe is right? I'd love to see the debate in the comments. So let's take a moment to look back at what we've uncovered today. 6 reasons life after 80 can be shorter than it should be: declining muscle strength and mobility, poor nutrition, unmanaged chronic conditions, social isolation, increased vulnerability to infections, and the trap of a sedentary lifestyle. Each of these can quietly chip away at your health and independence. But here's the part one want you to hold on to. They're not just problems. They're opportunities. Every single one of them can be influenced by choices you make starting right now. You might not change everything overnight, and you don't have to. A short daily walk. An extra serving of vegetables. Picking up the phone to call a friend. Scheduling that checkup you've been putting off. These little decisions add up, and they can change the shape of your later years. Life after 80 doesn't have to mean slowing down to a stop. It can still be rich, connected, and full of purpose. But it won't happen by accident. It happens when you decide that every year you have left is worth living well. Before you go, I want you to think about just one change you can make starting today. Something small, something realistic, something you can keep doing. Maybe it's a 10-minute walk after breakfast. Maybe it's adding an extra vegetable to your plate. Maybe it's calling that old friend you've been meaning to catch up with. Whatever it is, make it count. And I'd love to hear from you. Share in the comments one thing you're going to do differently after watching this video. Your story might be the encouragement someone else here in the senior strong living community needs to take their own first step. If you found this helpful, make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the tips, reminders, and real-life stories that can help you live not just longer, but stronger. Because here, we're not just counting the years, we're making the years count. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Take care of yourself, stay connected, and I'll see you in the next video.